Welcome back to r/neighbors from hell, where people share stories about their crazy neighbors. And if you're new to my channel, please don't forget to subscribe to join our amazing community. And without any further ado, let's dive right into the stories. The first one is titled, "Neighbors constantly invited people to park and trespass on my property. We got them towed." I really wish that the stupidity and overall jerk behavior of people could just go away to the point that stories like this would not even be necessary. Unfortunately for me though, I'm going to just add to the list of neighbors that need to learn how to behave because they clearly did not learn when they were 5 years old like the rest of us. I don't really have a lot to say about my neighbor outside of the story though, since this basically happened right after I moved into the house. I guess a-hole neighbor is not something that the real estate agent likes to tell you about in order to make the sale. So that is the situation that I found myself in. Just moving into a new house, not even having unpacked half of my things, still needing to get some stuff from my old house 2 hours away, and my neighbor does not know anything about common courtesy. Obviously, you wanna know what he is doing that is so bad that I am this angry, and in short, I keep finding people's cars on my property. When I say that they are on my property, I don't even mean that they are in my driveway, because sometimes they park next to each other where 2 cars end up half on my driveway and half on the grass. My wife is not happy about this, and when I'm not home actually says she is scared to be looking out the window and seeing all of these strangers parking and even hanging out on our property. I was back in our old place for 2 days packing everything else up, so when I got there I decided that I was going to try to handle the situation myself. My wife had apparently tried talking to the neighbor while I was gone to basically get nowhere with him. I was going to start like anybody naturally would, assessing the situation at hand. I found out that neighbor liked to throw a lot of parties and the people were parking not only in his own driveway, but also the street, which is legal and fine, across the street in the driveway of an empty house, not sure if legal, but to me still seems like a dick move, and of course my house, which was a big no-no. I figured that I might as well start somewhere and thought to maybe talk to the people parking there and explaining that this was my property and they had to park somewhere else. When I tried this though, they started speaking back to me in a language that I honestly never heard of. It could have been anything to me. You might think, well, okay, it's not their fault that they don't understand what I'm telling them. When I went to the neighbor's backyard to find him though, I find the same exact people speaking English to each other, so I know that they were just pretending in hopes that I would give up and let them park there. I found neighbor and I basically got as far as my wife did with him, constantly telling me not to worry about it and there was plenty of room for everyone. He either did not care that it was technically trespassing or thought he was being funny. Either way, I was not laughing and wanted to do something about this because I did not want to have to move right away again because of one bad neighbor. It was not only the cars though that was the problem with his parties. Now, I'll admit that after a certain time in the night, they did move indoors and were quiet enough that we could not hear them. I mostly slept right through them, even getting back into their cars and driving away. Still though, I was waking up every day and walking to my car, which was safely inside the garage out of fear, to see garbage all over the place, cigarette butts, beer cans, food wrappers, even dog poop. I did not move out of a big city just now to be surrounded by the same garbage right in front of my home. It did not help that my wife was miserable and looking out the window, and all she saw was either a mess or a bunch of people on our property. I knew that talking to them was not going to cut it and that I needed to come up with a plan. Since this guy clearly did not want to play nice, I decided that I was not going to either. Since I was new to the area though, I had to do some research regarding the things that this guy was doing, because I did not want to make a claim about something that was allowed and then have everything else be ignored. What I found though was better than I could have hoped for. Like basically everywhere else, it was illegal to park on someone else's property. The throwing of the trash onto my property though was apparently taken also very seriously here and could result in fines up to $500. Also, as a little bonus, not picking after your dog apparently counted as a completely separate fine to avoid people not picking after their dogs. I was going to get this guy good, and for anyone thinking that it was a little harsh, please keep in mind that between that first day and this plan, I had tried to talk to him at least a dozen times to no avail. There was no getting through to him. I stayed up one night until his party was moved inside and then called to have all 4 cars that were parked on my property that night removed. I know that they were all too drunk and still partying to even notice what was happening. In addition to that, I had already sent in video proof of the littering and not cleaning up after their dog. When they woke up though to see their cars gone, they were so confused and caught me as I was getting to my car to go to work. Magically, these guys knew how to speak perfect English to me now, and I told them that I warned the neighbor that I was not going to allow anyone to park on my property and that I had them towed. They were angry and told on me to the neighbor who was not happy about the whole thing. I decided to be about as helpful as he was and tell him not to worry about it, just like he told me. He had no idea how to respond to that and ended up sulking back towards his house. The next few days, multiple people were invited by him to park onto our property, but they got the same consequence of getting towed. I did warn the ones I saw parking there, and while some moved, the others didn't and found out my threat was real. Even though things started to change when I guess the town finally sent him the fines and he realized that he wasn't going to get away with everything. While he still had parties, which again were never an issue, they were now much more subdued. Sometimes there wouldn't even be one, and I would see him driving off going to someone else's house for one. The trash problem stopped, and me and my wife are much calmer now that strangers are not randomly appearing on our property anymore. I still feel a little weird about leaving my car out, so that it is going to stay nice and safe in the garage now. At least I can get to it without walking through all that trash now. And Ripe Stars, I'm curious, what would you have done if your neighbor constantly invited people to park on your private property? Would you have tried to get all of them towed? Let us know in the comments about what you would have done. In addition, I would really appreciate it if you could also post some star emojis in the comments and maybe even like the video if you want to go the extra mile in terms of supporting my channel. Thank you so much in advance, your support is very much appreciated. The next one is titled, Say Bye-Bye to Your Promotion. For 18 months I'd been working from home, as most of us had. From a work perspective, this has been great. I've been more productive than when I am in the office, been able to work more flexible hours and have saved a ton of money by not commuting. My workplace had an agreement that those working from home can do what hours they want, so as long as we are able to answer urgent calls in core hours and we get all our work done. Fair enough as far as I'm concerned. And by the way, Ripe Stars, do you prefer the work from home or would you rather go back to your workplace, your office or whatever? Let us know in the comments. Personally, I really enjoy home office type work. Anyway, for 16 months this worked great as above. Then over a few weekends I had a clear out of the house and took pictures of all the items that are in good condition but we no longer want, with a view to giving it away to whoever wants it. One day when I'm working from home, I take my lunch break, make a quick sandwich and post the items that I'm giving away on one of those local Facebook free pages. I didn't know it at the time, but one of the managers, called Shambles henceforth, from my work was also signed up to that page and he saw my post. He then took it upon himself to go to the owner of the company and tell him that I was slacking off and posting on Facebook during work hours. For context, this was not my boss, who was super chill so long as everything was done on time, nor was the complaint to my boss, but to the owner of the company. We are a big business, so there is a lot of people in the chain of command between me and the owner. And to top it off, I'd been doing a lot of work for Shambles. He had outsourced the running of the entire project to me over the last 18 months, all of which I had executed well and he had taken ample credit for. And this was the only time in 18 months that I had posted anything on Facebook, because I never post. So the owner contacted me, and to be fair, he's a decent guy. The conversation went like this. Owner, I've been told you are posting on Facebook during work hours. Just be smart about it. It doesn't look good when colleagues see it. Me, completely understand. Just so you know, I posted that during my lunch break. Owner, I was told you were posting at noon. The company lunch break is usually 1 to 2. Me, I did, but that's because when I'm home working I always take my lunch 12 to 1. Owner, okay, I don't have an issue with that. Just keep your head down. Like I said, a decent guy. I was not really in trouble and the owner did not seem to care, but then I started to think, wait, who the hell has gone to the owner with this in the first place? Long story short, a co-worker who was working on site that day heard on the grapevine that Shambles had been complaining to the owner about me and how I am always on social media when I should be working. I literally only have Facebook and I only use that for Messenger 99% of the time. Cue my petty revenge. As I said before, Shambles likes to outsource work to me. I never minded this, the work was varied and it broke the week up, plus my own boss did not mind as I always had my work for him done on time. However, I never got recognition for this extra work. For 2 years I managed a sub-department completely on my own, because he did not have time to do it. I did not get a penny more for it, but it was a good group of people and I enjoyed getting experience of management. Well, after this, every time Shambles came to me with an issue, I would say I was super swamped, but that I would try to deal with it if I had time. The projects he tried to outsource to me, I immediately rejected, saying that I had a full plate from my actual job and that sub-department I ran, we will get to that. Over the next couple of months, Shambles starts missing his deadlines, issues come up with existing projects that he has not fixed, and employees are complaining that every time they go to him with an issue, it does not get resolved. It dawns on me at this point that I've basically been doing this guy's job for him for years. Screw that. I set up a meeting with my boss and put forward my arguments for why I should be promoted, or really, why I should have been ages ago. I point to all the projects I've successfully run, as well as the sub-department I've managed for 2 years. He completely agrees and says he will take it to his boss. Now, somehow, I don't know how, but when I go to the next meeting with my boss's boss, Shambles is there too. He is on the same level in the company as my boss's boss, a little faced but not willing to give up. I put my arguments forward to them. Shambles lets me finish and then proceeds to tell me that I don't know enough about our work to manage, I don't have the required people skills, and then he tells me, and this is verbatim, "Besides, people here don't respect you, they respect me. I know I'm a good manager. If you really think about it, you know you wouldn't be." I forget what else was said after that, but I was completely destroyed. Boss's boss comes up to me afterwards and tells me that Shambles is a dick, but unfortunately he has got the approval of the higher ups, so what he says has too much sway for him to go against him. I tell boss's boss that if that is the way it is, I'm going to look for other employment. He sighs and says, "I don't blame you." Cue pro-revenge. During the time it took for me to look for and apply to other jobs, I had time to think about how I can get back at Shambles. He has used me for years and is now blocking my promotion. I had already stopped working on his stuff and his projects were going from bad to worse, but I needed something more. Now, this next part could be an entire post on its own, so I have bulleted it for brevity. If you want more context, I can write it out later. I am an accredited internal auditor for our quality systems. I ask if I can be assigned a couple of last audits before I leave to help them out. I carry out these audits and using my intimate knowledge of Shambles projects to find every single issue I can. A number of people also hate Shambles and give me more dirt on him. Someone gives me breakthrough information that Shambles has been forging signatures and bypassing multiple company procedures to make his KPIs look better. I write up the report with tons of evidence attached and send it off. The report gets flagged at the highest level because of what it shows. Shambles gets dragged over the coals. I wish I could say this story ends with Shambles getting fired and having to sell his body on the street for scraps, but obviously using all the connection he has, he keeps his job. I later found out though that he was due a massive promotion, as in catapulted to the top of the company, running whole divisions kind of thing. That never happened though. With his declining numbers as well as a damning audit showing all his shortcomings, he is basically told he'll never progress beyond where he is and that he is lucky to have a job at all. He still works there, and I am told his ego has been taken down a whole washing line worth of pegs. As for me, I would love to say I got a better job with a massive raise. That is half true. I decided to pursue my dream job, literally, since I've been a kid, dream job, in a totally different industry. All the experience I had counted in my favor, and although I took a bit of a pay cut, I've never enjoyed work more. Oh, and that sub-department I was running, they knew that when I left Shambles would take over running them again, so in my last month at the company, I gave them all tutorials on how to search for jobs and pass interviews. I had worked in recruitment previously. I have heard from a number of them since that they had landed better jobs and thanked me in part for it. Not the perfect ending, but I'm damn happy with it. And the next one is titled, Am I the a-hole for refusing to pay my HOA that hired a landscaping crew on my house without my permission? The lady that is the head of my HOA has always disliked our garden. We hire people that mow our lawn weekly and everything is clean. But my mom liked to plant things like tomatoes, cabbages and mint in the garden that doesn't quite fit well with the so-called aesthetic of the neighborhood where everyone has black mulch. My mom doesn't speak English, and before the pandemic when we were out of the country, we didn't receive the letters that the HOA sent about our garden, and it ended up hiring a landscaping crew that killed all of our tomatoes and put mulch there instead. I checked the mail and realized it was us who didn't receive their letters, so we paid the company. We have been in the US ever since. While my mom gave up on tomatoes and cabbages, we still have a strain of mint that we planted and it grew in our garden. In fact, plenty of people in the neighborhood come and pick some of our mints, after asking of course. I personally think it looks pretty since it is just green, and I didn't think they would have a problem with that. But they did. The HOA lady has my phone number, she has my email, she had emailed that address before, and my mom had given her the contact of one of her friends so he would be able to translate for her if the HOA lady needed anything. She never contacted any of us, and instead one day a landscaping crew just came in without our permission and again pulled out all of our mint. And now we got a bill for $2,000. When I emailed her about it, she told me that she thought we were not home, which is BS because our lights are literally on every day and our car goes in and out of the driveway daily. I've even said hello to her when passing by. She didn't even make one attempt to contact us, and she thought that since we paid the first landscaper, we agreed that she can hire people to do our garden. Am I the a-hole if I refuse to pay her? And a user in the comments said, not the a-hole, it seems the HOA did not notify you a second time and they should have. You mentioned that your mom doesn't speak English and being out of the country, is it possible the HOA is discriminating against you for being immigrants? Do they take advantage of other neighbors with violations being out of town and hiring contractors to work on their lawns? I would check the HOA meeting notes. There should be notes from meetings keeping a record of violations and what the response was. If you seem to be the only one this happens to, I would get some legal advice. And another user said, ex-HOA board member here, find your CC&Rs and rules and regulations and get an attorney. Depending on what your dues cover, you may have to keep paying them. Ask for a meeting with the whole board and the management company to explain all of this. The rest of the board may not know what is up. Also, depending on your state, the HOA may be able to lien your home and foreclose because there are actual physical costs and not just fines involved. And guys, I just could not resist to read this story, even though there is not a final update yet. However, so far it seems that OP indeed has to pay the HOA in this case, because from what I can tell, the risk of not paying probably could involve the HOA potentially foreclosing on OP's home or putting a lien on their home. In case there are any further developments, I will keep you updated of course, but for now, it seems at least to me that OP is probably gonna end up paying the HOA, unfortunately. And ripe stars, with this we have reached the end of the video. However, if you still cannot get enough of my content, then I would highly suggest to check out my endless binge watch playlist, which will soon show up in the left corner of the screen. In addition, I would really appreciate it if you could not only subscribe to the channel, but also turn on the bell notifications, which you can do by clicking on the little bell icon right next to the subscribe button. This will help my channel tremendously, and this will make sure that you don't miss any of my videos. Furthermore, if you want to see additional ripe content that I don't post on YouTube, then I would suggest to head on over to patreon.com/ripeyoutube for more than 50 exclusive videos that you will not see anywhere else. Thank you so much for your amazing daily support, and I hope to see you again tomorrow.